Hello and welcome to this is April 23rd, 2022. I'm Kurt, and this is my Good Life Meditation, a thing that I do every morning to remember my life objectives and principles and to see how I'm doing living these, basically. So it's a Saturday morning. I had yesterday off. Good, feeling good. Boy, this is, almost 58. Another 25 odd days or so to 58. I couldn't hope to feel better than I do right now. Stress level is low. I'm feeling rested, in control. It's good. Now, part of the reason is that the seas are calm right now. Remember, I've got a principle called the Homunculus, which suggests that our consciousness sits on a little rock sticking out of the sea. So we're stuck on it, the sea is all around. We can't get off. We can't ever connect with anybody. Everybody else is on their own rocks sticking out of the sea. And the sea is sometimes placid and calm, like it is now for me. Or at least it's a gentle undulation. And sometimes it's rugged. Sometimes it's a tempest. Sometimes there's wild winds and waves, and it's downright scary. Certainly my sea is just like that, up and down and calm and rough. Right now, like I said, it's a gentle swell. Just the water is up rising and falling gently, and there's no real wind. The sunlight isn't burning down, even though there's no clouds. The sun is warm and nice, and a beautiful soft light. That's what it is like now. That's what life is like at this very moment. And it's a good feeling. And, would it could be like this all the time? Yeah, but I know that's a dream. The waves will return, and the wind will come back up, and the cold and the heat and the isolation and all those things. But today's a good day. Yesterday was not really challenging, even though I was out and about. I had left in the morning and gone to Irvine. I rode the Ortega Highway to go up and over the mountains. I was on the motorcycle. Had a great ride on the motorcycle. The bike ran great. Air pressure, I had carefully adjusted the air pressure in the tires to be just right for a nice twisty ride on the mountains, through the mountains. My arms hurt though, because I'm not, riding a big motorcycle takes a particular, you have to be in shape for that. It's like anything else that requires your body, you need to limber up. And when I was doing it regularly, I had my muscles were developed, particularly right through here, for holding the big bike. They're not anymore. So I'm sore in my arms. That's to be expected. Had a really nice lunch with a friend from work and his son. We went to Tanakaya in Tustin, the soba shop. The same soba shop where Emily used to work. And I went by the AAA before that and did my registration for the motorcycle. So I guess I'm going to keep it for another year. I'm thinking about selling the bike. Came home, took a nice long walk with the family and the dogs. Had dinner, really good dinner. Wow, Yumiko knocked it out of the park last night. And then went promptly to bed. Had a good night's sleep. I was up twice. Once when nature called, and another one I just woke up, but I went right back to sleep. So, wow, the last 24 hours, if I could tune life to be just like that, that would be pretty sweet. Let's do the good life. 7 objectives and 30 principles. My first objective is to have everything in a settled state in life. Not finished, but settled. So that if I were to disappear right now, which is as good as what death would do, there's it's not so much that everything in my world here is finished, but it's in good shape. My papers are, excuse me again, I don't know what's come on me all of a sudden. My papers are in order. My accounts are in order. My relationships with my loved ones sleeping behind me, they're in order. And my work is in order. Now that's almost the case. Hi, Rudy. Just joined us. Everything but this book. This book's not in order. I still have some work to do on it. So I need to spend some time on that. And I imagine I'm going to need another year of, pretty much deliberate effort to get that thing in order. I'm going to take it offline. Maybe I'll do that after I'm done with this video and go back to the editing. I'm just keep discovering stuff that I don't like. But the other books are all in order. Freeway Bible Study, it was more of a journal than anything else. But the main one, Going Alone, that one's quite in order. So yeah, I can die and be satisfied in that. Plus, I think I have a pretty clear shot to the end of my life. I was thinking about it yesterday. I don't think there's anything I want from this point forward other than time. I got enough books now. I've been collecting books in the last year. I've got enough books to read for the rest of my life. Good books, important books. Important, like anything really is. Important in this temporal happenstance that I'm in. What the hell does that mean? This here and now. This life that I live. It's important in that. Not really anything else. Okay, then the next principle is the reason and the sub-principles of honesty, objectivity, and doubt. It's a frame of mind and an attitude and a way of approaching life. Next comes the homunculus, the reminder that I have a little consciousness, but I don't think I have anything like a soul. I don't really care to argue the term soul. I guess, that's just one way of saying something that will last forever. I don't think there's anything in me that will last forever, other than my atoms, or maybe even not those, but at least the subatomic particles and the energy that is and passes through me. Then comes the Anchorhold, that idea I was mentioning earlier about standing on a rock in a sea, which is just a figurative way to express the idea that we're all ultimately alone. We can never really be with one another, even when we're in the embrace of one another. And then the home of good and evil. No, that's not right. How did I get these mixed up? I started mixing principles up with objectives. First objective is to be always ready to die. The second objective is to make good and effective use of time. The third objective is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. The fourth objective is to make good and effective use of my time, to not waste my time. And then to do good actions, to do good things throughout the day. And then the next objective is to remember my true limits and my true opportunities. And then finally, the last objective is to do just one thing at a time, and to do that thing slowly and deliberately and at ease. At ease, that's a new idea. Write that down. That's new to all of us. I've never thought of that one. To do things at ease. To do one thing slowly and deliberately and at ease. Versus, what would the opposite be? At haste? At anxiously? Fretfully? Wow, that's a vista, isn't it? I remember that one. Try to, at least. Then comes the 30 principles, and I already kind of started that. The first is the principle of war, to always be fighting against what I think is true. And then reason, which I mentioned, honesty, objectivity, and doubt. That's the way to approach the world, honestly, objectively, and as a skeptic, which together form an approach of reason. Then comes the homunculus, the suggestion that we don't have a soul, but we do get to have a little consciousness for a while. And it isn't the soul that I care about. It's the observation that death appears to be permanent and eternal, and no coming back. Not even a one-way street, because a one-way street implies going somewhere. There is no somewhere. After death, that is. Then comes the Anchorhold, which I mentioned before, the little rock sticking out of the sea. And then purpose, and I already mentioned my purpose, my home, my family, well, in this order, my child, my wife, my family, my living a virtuous life. Where virtue is, doing things to improve the well-being of thinking creatures, in particular. And then also to share the message, the story and the message of going home, my book. Then comes the atomic principle. Everything is made of bits and pieces, including me and you. And those pieces tend to fall to pieces. And the principle of nature. Everything has some particular nature. And it's good to recognize what that is, so that we aren't expecting behaviors and characteristics of things to which that is not their behaviors or characteristics, but we are expecting and observing, expecting, and not surprised by things when they behave the way they are. And then comes maturity, and the sub-principles of wisdom and fortitude. It's to be a mature man. Wisdom in remembering our successes and failures, so that we can do more of the successes and avoid more of the failures. Then the social principle. We need each other. We human beings need others. We don't do as well alone as we do as a community. And then after the social principle comes public speaking. To use few words, deliberate words. Oh boy, carefully chosen words. And to review as what I'm about to say or send. And then to never ever gossip. And then temperance, to be careful about what I consume in terms of food and drink and work and play and absolutely everything. Limit my consumption of all things, except reading. I think I'll give myself liberty with reading, to read all that I want. I have a quota of 10 pages a day of anything, but it's okay to go beyond that. It's okay to go as far as I want. Bountiful returns. Then comes the horror show. Life is a parade of terror unfolding everywhere, all about us. I want to remember that. And I want to be sensitive to my impact on all of that. If there's something that I can do to decrease the horror. And then the Feast of Offal, the reminder that so much of our life is, that's not the way I want to start that. I was just filling that with saying so much of our life. The Feast of Offal is when we let our upset shine out of us. And it's not a pretty thing. It's more like a burning of a summer sun. Even that's not a good example. It's when we get upset and have a tantrum. And we tend to do that sometimes most readily with our loved ones. They get to see a side of us that we don't show generally at work or at school, but we'll show at home when we're upset and we've had a bad day. And I try not to do that because that soils others around me. I'd rather hold my emotions inside and deal with them in another way. Likewise, when other people are doing that, I can stand right by and ready to comfort them after they've had their say. But I don't need to swallow what they're saying by taking it too seriously. Although I should probably listen to hear what they're saying anyway. Next comes distraction. We spend our whole lives distracting ourselves from the seeming reality of the universe. That God is a wishful thought. The idea that there's something looking out for us, maybe something that created us and that has a plan for us and will keep us with it after we're gone, or punish those who reject it or displease it in some way. That seems to be all a story or something that we make up to cover our fear of death. So I choose to not do that. I choose to look objectively and to make, even though I can't necessarily make conclusive sense. I don't really know whether God exists or not, but I can tell you that I have yet to see any good evidence, the key being good, that that's the case. Mostly it falls down to authority, dogma, personal experience, and expressions of faith, none of which are impressive to me. So I live with my doubt, and I live with the assumed position that there is nothing after life, that I have no soul, there is no God. I won't see my loved ones again. And so I need to endeavor to make the best of today, which is the only today that I'll ever get. Not even this today is guaranteed that I'll make it to the end of the day. So that was two principles: distraction, and then another principle called agency and the great indifference, the emptiness of the universe. Next comes the best seat in the house, to not want to be anyone else or be anywhere else or be doing anything else, but to be okay with who I am, where I am, and what I'm doing right here, right now, right when. Wait, that makes sense. Right here, right now, right where. All the while striving to do better and be better and live better. It sounds like I'm just throwing that stuff out. I think I do mean it. I'm trying to be deliberate. And then comes the Path of Wildness, which is the way upward and forward, into and through new life. Yumiko and I are doing that now as we plan for our return to Japan. Really looking forward. I'm really looking forward to today. Really looking forward. And maybe that's one of the reasons I'm so happy today. I'm really looking forward to spending the day with Yumiko today. We're going to have fun. Although it's routine, we're going to have fun. And I'm looking forward to more of that as we go into our retirement years. She's a good woman. I'm very lucky to have her. Then next comes, and more on that Great Life Adventure thing. No. That, was it the Great Life? No. The Path of Wildness. The Path of Wildness is tricky to do. It's easy to get stuck. It takes work and risk to extricate ourselves and to have a path forward, out, to walk on the Path of Wildness. Sounds like a song. It is a poem, The path of wildness. It's easy to find. The leaves blown in the wind. No, I said it wrong. It's the course of a stream. Leaves blown in the wind. A beast's track through the brush. And the direction of our first inclination. Now comes the risk of avoiding risk. The surface level risks of life are things like education and job and finding a spouse, buying a house, having children and raising a family, and saving for retirement. I call them the surface level risks because we all are raised to adulthood with suggestions that we pursue those things. And there's whole societies and families or institutions, banks and schools and churches and everything are all set up to facilitate that. So it's a risk to not do any of those things because we miss something in life. But it's an easier risk to mitigate because everybody's applauding as we do, for the most part, as long as you do it their way. The deep level risk is the risk of not attending to that little voice inside yourself as a youth that's saying, there must be more. What about yourself? What are you interested in? What do you want to do? If we don't do that, especially when we're young, we have a risk of regret at a later date. Even if we achieve the career and the home and the family and the security, something is missing. Something is wanting. That usually will begin to appear at midlife, and the voice will become louder as we proceed until we find ways to either silence it or mitigate it. Although the mitigation is tricky to do from our 40s, 50s, and 60s, we're just not the same anymore. We can't tolerate the same risks, and our maturity and our fear make us tremulous and fearful and timid. Risk averse. That's one of the key elements. It's more important to do this when we're in our 20s, when we have less to lose, with more time to recover, and we're too stupid to realize the risks that we're taking. And then we can one day look back and go, whew, glad I survived that. Anyway, enough on that topic. Okay, so that was the Path of Wildness. Now the next one is the Path of Wildness. Okay, basically the Path of Wildness, the risk of avoiding risk. We did that one already. And then, that's how I got off. I got off on the risk of avoiding risk. Then the next one is sin and damnation. And there are 7 sins in my worldview. And these are falsity, credulity, faith, superstition, dogma, authority, and gossip. Falsity being untrue. Credulity, believing things too easily. Faith, which is a shortcut to satisfying our want to believe something by telling ourselves that just the fact that we believe it is enough of a reason to believe it. You can see how circular that is. And then superstition, which is superstition is superstition. It's entertainment. It's like watching TV and eating popcorn. Dogma, which is belief, where it's a little more trickier than faith because it actually says, well, I'm going to believe it because that's just what everybody's always done. And look at that fine institution that was created in that canonical text that seems to support it. So it's a little trickier with that one because it looks more solid, but it really isn't. And then authority. There's something to it. There's something solid to it. But that alone, the blessed tradition, doesn't mean that just because it is a blessed tradition doesn't mean the blessed tradition is right or correct. And then authority, which is believing something because, wow, I'm impressed with the authority and that's circular. So I'm impressed with the presence and the forcefulness and the certitude of the person or the doctrine being proposed. Again, not sufficient in its own right. There's something to it, but not sufficient in its own right. In a way, the dogma is a little more impressive than the authority. And then lastly, the last one that isn't even truth, it's not about belief, it's gossip. How do we know when we're gossiping? We're gossiping when we're saying something about someone else who's not with us that we would be suddenly very embarrassed if we turned around and discovered they were standing behind us, hearing everything we said. It's real easy, you know. If you're doing that, then we're gossiping, and I'm not going to do that. And I don't. Pretty much wipe that out. I mean, I can talk about somebody. I mean, Yumiko and I will talk about our daughter in the capacity as parents. You know, she's not around, but we're talking about her in her life. It's not gossip. That's us doing our due diligence. It's our responsibility to, as parents. Likewise, you know, it decreases that authority and scope decrease as things move away. And I think I've shared the perspective. So that's sin and damnation. Oh, the damnation comes that we live in a damned state, when we believe in things that are untrue, or gossiping about others. And you know, gossip is also a form of distraction. You know, it's an awful, terrible form of distraction at the expense of others. So, it's a sin. So that's sin and damnation. The next principle is complete oblivion. The suggestion that, you know, since I said before, I don't think I have a soul, and there is no God, and therefore there is no heaven or afterlife. That means that when death comes, that's it. And complete oblivion. I will, except for my molecules, my atoms, and my energy, which will just dissipate off to somewhere else. Ashes to ashes. And then I won't see my loved ones again in afterlife. I will never have a chance to reconcile with those that I left on bad terms with. Not that it'll matter. Nobody will know. They won't know, and I won't know after we're both dead. And then I won't have a chance to, there won't see any final justice after we're dead. No final reconciliation, no final reunion, no final reconciliation, and no final justice. Complete oblivion. That's what's coming. And it doesn't mean, well, it does mean the end of the world for us. But it also means that we can do something now. We can squeeze reconciliation and reunion and justice, you know, within bounds, you know, within the scope of our control, out of today. You know, I can go out. I'm going to take my wife to breakfast this morning. And I am going to squeeze those moments, you know, to sit at the table with her, to have our breakfast, to put the phone in my pocket, to order, to have a cup of coffee, to wait for our food, to talk about my day, my week, listen to her talk about her day, her week, talk about our plans for Japan, talk about our daughter. Today, I don't have to wait for heaven to enjoy a good breakfast with my wife. Next is the Great Life Adventure, which is one or more keystone events in life that hold the structure of our identity together. Keystone being that one rock that holds the whole structure together, right? You know, for me, it was hitchhiking as a youth across America, the western part of America, or you know, deciding to go to college in a potato chip truck, and all that entailed, and then, you know, going to Japan with Yumiko the first time, and then coming back to America this first time, and then going back to Japan the second time, and coming back to America the second time, and then getting ready to go back to Japan the third time. Those have been, each of those, a great life adventure in their own right. You know, the great life adventure of becoming Softy Papa, and using that vehicle of identity of Softy Papa to create the Abandoned Japan series, and the Walking in Japan series, and the Lyles Brothers series, and then coming back to America and switching hats, literally, and going into the desert with my motorcycle and exploring the wastes and the empty, and discovering the great indifference, and writing my book Going Alone. Each of these is an adventure in its own right, Some of them are great life adventures, of to a greater or lesser extent. Each of them has formed and molded the character that I am. It has been part and parcel of my life. It's good to have these things. Remember back I was saying before about the risk of avoiding risk and having that the deep risk of not discovering ourselves, so to speak, and having that adventure that we want. And that's what the Great Life Adventure does. It tends to that. Next comes the season of philosophy, which is a time to record what we've learned along the way. When to have the pen and easel ready at a moment's notice to write down whatever words come. Because they do tend to come, especially if we've peppered our life with great life adventure. The words tend to come. It's like conspiring, melding, churning thing inside of our head, and suddenly an idea floats up from the bubbling witch's brew of thought and experience. And you have an idea and it floats and you see there for a second and, oh my gosh, and you have to write it down or paint it or sing it or whatever you're going to do. Take a video, a video of yourself speaking and talking about it. That's why I keep over there on that desk. My journal is always open, ready. And I require myself to make at least one journal entry every day so that I can be ready to capture that. The season of philosophy, it passes quick. And you don't get it back. If you miss the chance to capture whatever words come, you'll be gone for good. Okay, after the season of philosophy comes the bullseye aim. The bullseye aim. The idea of life is like targets that we try to hit our goals. And it's pretty rare that we can hit this bullseye square. We usually miss by a little bit. And just a reminder that that's the case. So every time I, for example, try to, pardon me, at work, just let that sneeze pass. It's like it takes over the whole body. Don't just rush into it, Kurt. At work, when I plan an agenda for a meeting, usually I need to take my allergy medicine. Forgot. Usually, my meeting won't follow the agenda just perfectly. Something will go wrong. That's the bullseye aim. And because I keep that principle active in my mind, I see it in the moment that it happens. Like I spoke yesterday in yesterday's video, by reciting these objectives and principles every single day, taking, 15, 20, half an hour, 40 minutes to do this every morning. These things are present in my mind. They just pop out, right? I'm in a meeting and I lose my track of the role and I hit the button to share the screen and I don't know where everybody else went. They're somewhere on one of my other monitors. It's and I'm all flustered. That's the bullseye aim, and my mind goes bullseye aim, and I stay on track. I don't get upset. I say, okay, well, good. There's the expected missing the mark, and then when I do hit the mark, then the meeting goes perfect, which is rare. I go, ooh, oh, that was rare. Next is the uphill climb. Life is a uphill trudge. Every day should leave me wearied. My muscles should ache. My brain should be fatigued. That means I stepped up another day. If I just slid through the day, if I spent the whole day at my ease, then I probably, well, there's nothing wrong about that. There's nothing wrong about having fun, but some people are satisfied not climbing. They'll just find themselves a little hobbit hole midway up the mountain and dig in. The problem with that is that the perspective never changes. The view never changes, really. But that's okay. Some people are happy in a hobbit hole. If you, like me, are not, then I'm going to keep climbing. Maybe you can too. Uphill climb. And then arena and utility. This is back to that idea that the principles, keeping them ever at the ready. I like to picture it like a tool belt, like a carpenter's tool belt, and all the principles are hanging off the side. A little apathy, a little temperance. But really, in fact, if you do this deliberately, they're not even at the side. They just appear out of the air. and more that's more and more the case. And then two more left. The last two principles are, one, the first one is nothing is enough. A little bit like temperance, but a little bit different. It's a suggestion of getting by with less. But really what it's a reminder of is that, for example, I have about 50 books here on my bookshelf that I have not read. I've got two sides of the shelf, all the books that I have read and all the books that I have, or at least the ones that I have copies of, and then all the books I haven't. And you know what? 50 is good. I probably won't get to them in the rest of my life. I don't plan to buy any more books. But 25 would be fine. 10 would be good. Even 5. Why not 1? And just, instead of buying all these books, just keep a little list of all the books named. Because that's what I did. That's how I collected them. In the course of my reading, when I was reading interesting things and they suggested another book that was, germane to that topic, I would buy that book. So basically this is a bookshelf of relevance. It's all stuff that's relevant to the reading that I've enjoyed in the past. So I should probably enjoy all of this. And that's usually true, shown to be true. But do I need to have all 50 of them here? Probably not. I can get by with just the one that I'm reading is sitting by my side, right here, right now. And then when this one is done, I could put it on the shelf on the other side, or I could give it to somebody else or donate it. Nothing is enough. Even though nothing truly isn't, nothing is too much in a way. It's too far. You can't get by with nothing. But the principle is to decrease, to diminish. I would love to, one day when I die, have my daughter come to tidy up my things and find nothing but the book that I was reading the day that I died, a small file cabinet full of all the papers relative to all of my finances, our finances, including a sheet with all of my online accounts and all of my passwords so that she can access all that stuff. My book, not this one. This one's kind of filler. The Good Life. My book, Going Alone, maybe one copy of Going Alone, signed with a message to my daughter, with love, Emily, with love, be safe but not too safe. No, a little more. Emily, it's been great being your dad. You're a fine human being. Be safe, but not too safe. Papa. And then that's it. And she's like, well, I backed up all his clothes. I got his book. Here's all the papers so I can organize take care of the finances. What else is there? Nothing else. That's the idea of nothing is enough. And I'm striving to get there. I'm failing in many ways, but, well, I've got too much. We'll have another chance because in about hopefully about 2 years, maybe between 2 and 3 years, Yumiko and I are going to be gone again. And I will be able to get rid of all this stuff and start over and really build a life of nothing after this. Building a life of nothing. Last principle. The principle of fun. It's a reminder to enjoy life and to have a good time. To not be serious all the damn time. I tend to be very serious, especially at work. I'm a no-nonsense kind of guy. I laugh a little bit, but just a little bit, But I don't have to, and it's good to be like that at work, because work is serious stuff. It's in its own way important, especially given what I do. I work public sector. I mean, the stuff that I do affects the citizens of our county, and the residents of our county more particularly. But I can have fun too. And there's two sub-principles to this one, and those are the principle of hope, the sub-principle of hope, and the sub-principle of retrospect. So imagining that at the moment of now is a time that you can have fun. We can have a glass of sake with our dinner, and liven things up. We can read a nice book in our free time. We can take a nice walk, pet the dog. These are all good things, right? But they tend to be crowded with the circumstances of life. I might be walking the dog, but I've got a little pain in my ankle, which I do, which kind of distracts from that. I can read a book, but it's kind of a boring book. But it's important it's an important book. It's good, but it's not so boring as to put it aside. But I'm going to carry on, Or I can. What were the other ones? You get the idea, right? The things we enjoy tend to be. I could have a little sake after with dinner, right? But the sake puts me to sleep, and then I can't enjoy the evening anymore. You get the idea, right? The moment of now is a sweet place to enjoy life, to have fun, but it's also a place contaminated with reality. However, hope, anticipation, for example. Like I'm anticipating breakfast with my wife. I mentioned it earlier. In fact, we're going to, as soon as she gets up and gets ready, we're going to get in our car and we're going to drive to Irvine. We have our Irvine shopping day today. And we'll stop at Corky's in Corona along the way, a restaurant we like. Now, Corky's is the type of place, especially the one in Corona. There's another one in the city of Paris here, in the Inland Empire. But the one in Corona is really good. I mean, you get in there, it's crowded and busy, but they get you seated quickly. The staff are courteous and friendly. The coffee just keeps on coming. The food is delicious. I mean, we've been there probably 5-6 times now, and it's always been good, except one surly hostess. But she's kind of the character of the place too. However, when we get there, it's likely that there'll be things that will kind of contaminate that. Like maybe I'll find some dried egg on my fork. The point being, the anticipation of breakfast at Corky's, sounds like a movie, the anticipation of breakfast at Corky's is without any such soiling. So I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to milk it for like I am right now. Literally, I'm feeling it right now. There's a pleasure that's coming over now. The anticipation of it, of sitting there with my wife, of talking. I've got things I want to talk with her about. This is our chance to catch up for the week. This is our chance to talk about the weekend. This is a chance to talk about Japan. All kinds of stuff. It's going to be fun. But when I get there, I'm not going to wait for it to get there. We will have fun when we're there. But there's a chance that the life will rain on the parade a little bit in the way that life does. And then in the remembrance of it, like I remember the past 5 or 6 times that we've been to Corky's, and it's a fun, beautiful, delicious thing to remember. So I don't live in the moment of now as much as I once thought I should. I anticipate, I enjoy hope. I enjoy the moment of now. I expect things. I expect to have dried food on my fork, or the toast to be too buttered, or someone to forget to come around and refill the coffee. I expect that to be the case. So that's the nature of things, right? Coming back to that principle. And the bullseye aim, right? But I'll also enjoy the retrospect, the remembrance. And that's it. That's my good life meditation. That's my good life creed. Now let's plan for the day. Like I said, today I'm going to finish this video. As this begins to upload, I'm going to go over to my Bible. I'm reading Isaiah 20 this morning. I studied Isaiah 19 yesterday. Whole lot of wrath going on in Isaiah 19. So we'll see what's going on. In fact, the last few chapters have been a whole lot of wrath. Interesting. A lot of conflict between the various countries surrounding Israel. I'll read Isaiah 20. Then I'll go over and I'll write in my journal, and then I'll come over here and I'll finish on the computer and I'll finish tidying up this video, put a thumbnail on it, add the tags and the description information, and finish that. Then after that, I'll go downstairs and feed the dogs. Then I'll finish. I already did some of my cleaning of this room. I'll finish cleaning this room and the whole upstairs quietly while the gals are still asleep. And then I'll go downstairs and start my cleaning on the downstairs. Usually about the time I'm done with all that, Yumi goes up, and then I can, when she's up and doing her thing, I can vacuum. And then she'll be done, and she's got her room over there. It's a really nice, she calls it her beauty room. It's got all her stuff in the wardrobe, and a nice little table with a vanity, and it's nice to see her all set up like that. So this home is good. And then we'll get in the car and go to Corky's, and then after that we'll do our shopping in Irvine. Probably go to Target, Costco. I don't think we need to go to Costco. I think we have everything. And then Central Market, or Tokyo Central for all the Japanese stuff, and then come home. And when we get back here in the afternoon, Emily's boyfriend should probably be here. We'll have dinner together. And that'll pretty much be the day. And then a walk. Excuse me, sneak in a couple of good dog walks in there too somewhere. It'll be a busy day. Excuse me. All right, long one today. Thank you for joining me. It's been a good life meditation. Be safe, but not too safe. Bye bye.